So I've seen a lot of anime, and having seen so much of it, I can definitely say that I've seen a lot of really terrible, terrible things. Some of this was in a quest to see terrible things, and some of it was just as an accident. But I've decided to put together a list of the worst things that I've seen, kind of as a precautionary tale, and hopefully to be somewhat amusing. Unfortunately, there is quite a lot of porn on this. I try to avoid just having a list of entirely hentai, but some of it just really does deserve to be there. So this is my top 25 worst anime that I've ever seen. And keep in mind, this is completely subjective. This is my opinion, and I'm willing to stick with it, but it is not, in fact, fact. Feel free to disagree with me. So before I start, I figured I'd talk about two things that didn't quite make it on the list, but do need mentioning. So these are my two dishonorable mentions. The first is Cream Lemon. For those not familiar with it, Cream Lemon was basically the first relevant hentai. It came out in 1984, the same year as the first hentai, which was Lolita, which I'll talk about later. But Cream Lemon was an anthology OVA that ran for 9 years and totaled over 38 episodes. The reason it's not making the list is because it's an anthology. So I'm not really willing to consider its individual episodes as individual entities. And as a whole, it does have some really good parts. Escalation's really good. Pop Chaser is amazing. And the Ami series is at least decent. But truthfully, if I were not considering this an anthology and considering each episode or series of episodes to be their own individual entities, probably the majority of my list would come exclusively from Cream Lemon. That's how bad it can be. But because it's an anthology, I'm not including it on the list. The other thing that needs to be mentioned is Sailor Moon and the Seven Balls, which is easily the most incompetent piece of garbage that I have ever seen. It is just so poorly made, so stupid, and it's bad in every aspect. It's clearly just made by some guy in his basement on Flash Player, and it's just like him and probably his sister doing the voices. It's supposed to be kind of like a doujinshi combining Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z pornographically, but it consists of characters just from random animes and consists mostly of characters that aren't from anime. They aren't from anything. Just random people that you just throw in. And in terms of story, it makes no sense, obviously, but what am I expecting? But it's just so incompetently made, and it does have some really insulting bits. Mostly that they actually have Narumi and Haruka from Kimi no Uso having sex as one of the oh, look at what I found, voyeuristic, paparazzi, people spying on anime characters, which is stupid because that's totally canonical with the series. They did have sex, and if I want to see them having sex, I just download an HCG and take a look at that because they do it in the game. So yeah, it's stupid, it's bad, but it didn't make the list because I don't really consider it an anime. It's basically sort of a fan-made product, so it's not really something that is legit. It is fucking horrible, though. If you want to see the worst thing ever made, watch it. To describe it, it's basically if every single fan fiction from everywhere, from fanfiction.com, just suddenly got turned into a hentai, that would be it. It includes pretty much everything. It's the most random assortment of characters. It has both gay porn and straight porn. Nothing about it makes sense. It is just terrible, and you could find better animation anywhere. It's just terrible Flash animation. So there are those two. They needed some mentioning, but they're not on the list for the stated reasons. Number 25, Dosokai Again. Dosokai was an H game from the 90s that also got turned into an anime, and truthfully, that OVA is probably one of the best hentais that I've ever seen. It's my fourth favorite hentai, and it doesn't really have that much porn in it, and it's really good because of its story, and it just does a great job with its story and its characters, and does a great job of developing them, and actually telling this really interesting love story that kind of has this tragic, kind of dark end to it that I really, really like. The problem is that it got remade, and it didn't get remade well. Basically, the story of it is a group of friends who are all in the tennis club during, I believe, college, get back together and in a reunion, and a romance between them re-sparks. But the remake doesn't do this well at all. It basically, each episode starts with like a 5 or 10 minute sequence of like their get together party that's the same in each episode. So just the fact that that is there is really fucking annoying. Second, it just basically pairs up the main guy with one of the girls, and in the first OVA, the characters had a lot of personality. They were very interesting, and you really wanted to know about them, cared about them. You were interested in them and wanted to, like, actually have them in a story. In this, not so much. They're bland, they're uninteresting, and their character design is horrible. Like, it was kind of made in that transitional period where they were just sort of starting to do more digital animation, and they weren't good at it yet. So the characters just looked terrible. Like, they did not translate well from the more cel-drawn to a different style, and like, just their hair looks unimaginably retarded. Like, if you were to have something that to represent like stupid anime hair, this would be it. It just looks atrocious. The characters are not interesting, and truthfully, as porn, it sucks too. The original Dosokai, I mean, it was pretty softcore. It was the 90s. Not much happened. But this, it's the same thing, but it still looks like shit, despite having better animation technology. It's terrible. It completely ruins the series. If the first one was a 10, which I consider it to be, this is a 1. It is that much of a difference and is that jarring. It's really bad. Number 24, Detective Conan OVA 11. So, I am a big fan of Detective Conan. I'm currently up to date with the TV series. I watched all the movies. Truthfully, I love it. It's a great series, although it is flawed at times. Occasionally there are some bad episodes, and the ones that are bad tend to be bad because the children are really annoying. And this is one of such episodes where the only focus is on the kids, and the central plot point is just completely stupid there is apparently an actress who looks like Haibara, and that's where it goes. And it's padding. It is just 20 minutes of completely pointless, annoying padding, and it just has kids looking like whores, and that's the best way to describe it. It's kind of disturbing in that aspect. Everything about it is just stupid. It's a bunch of, like, stupid plot twists that you saw coming from a mile away. It's painful to watch, mind-numbingly dull and pointless, and truthfully, I really like the series, and to see it have something this bad come out of it, it just is really depressing and really sad. This series is better than this, and it did not deserve to get this